Welcome back into the Cowboys Report live for the first time in almost a week since the NFL trade deadline. I am Tom Downey, producer Aiden, behind the scenes on today's show. Got a key Monday Night Football matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. Who are you cheering for in this one? You have to pick one. The correct answer is the Meteor, but who are you cheering for in this one? E for the Eagles, P for the Packers. The Meteors, same vote as a tie, by the way. It's the same exact thing, which actually might help the Cowboys a little bit, but also doesn't. 77% are voting for the Packers. 23% are voting for the Eagles. If I pick tie and Meteor, it would be 100% of the vote. So we're making you guys pick one because it's more fun that way. I think you're the best argument, even though you own their first-round pick, is probably Green Bay, unless you just want to move to the offseason and be done with it already. In that case, it might actually be the Eagles. But get your votes in. E for the Eagles, P for the Packers. Producer Aiden, who you got? Or who you cheering for, I guess, in this one, potentially.
Tonight, I am going to take the Packers by a pretty small margin. I couldn't really tell you why. This one's going to be really close, but I do actually feel like Howie Roseman's new additions are going to somehow make themselves known and kind of come back on the scene, like, you know, Michael Carter and Jair's probably going to make a play tonight.
Well, he's not playing tonight.
Is he actually not?
He's out.
Okay. Well, I know that the Packers have some inactives. Tucker Kraft, Christian Watson out for this one.
He played last week. I think he's playing
last week. Okay. Well, either way, I'm going to rock with the Packers tonight. I think it's going to be a close one, but I think they'll probably be able to get the job done. So.
Most of these are, I want the Packers because I hate the Eagles and you want to keep the NFC East hopes alive, or you want the Eagles because you just want the higher draft pick. So no matter what, you get good news or you get bad news. You get a bit of both in this one for the Cowboys. Who you got? Who you cheering for, I should say. E for the Eagles, P for the Packers. Let me know in the comments section of today's show who you cheering for in this particular matchup. E or P for the Eagles and the Packers. If they tie, they tie, and it is what it is. So would you sign Quandre Diggs? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's video. Would you go out and sign Quandre Diggs? Y or N in the comments of today's video. Someone asking about why Brian Daboll's in the thumbnail. We'll talk about how that does impact the Cowboys, and frankly, why I think the Giants' handling of this entire thing is actually good for Dallas. It is bad for New York. Marshall, I think, is still alive. He has been sad, Marshall, ever since they announced that Joe Schoen was going to lead the coaching search. Just hilarious on that front. So, Quandre Diggs was with the Titans, had been released before the Week 10 games got going. Would you pick him up? And out of safety. Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's video. As you get to Matt Temple's $5 super chats, as much as we need the Packers to lose to help with draft positioning, I cannot bring myself to ever cheer for the Eagles. P.S. F the Eagles. I get it. It's kind of a lose-lose scenario. I have a tweet scheduled. Our Packers guy sent me the two sides of the bus meme. You know what I'm talking about? I was cheering for the Packers. And cheering against the Eagles was sunny out. So I just responded with the edited one of it's dark on both sides. So it's that one. It doesn't feel great. Meteor is the correct answer in this particular matchup. All right, any super chat gets you into or it is a shout out, I should say. A $5 super chat gets you into our still to be determined raffle for Monday Night Football against the Raiders. $10 gets you 3 raffle entries. $50 is a shot, and $100 is a beer bong. That is the super chat menu on today's show, and everyone wants the Meteor to hit. And yeah, I don't blame you. The Meteor is the Bane explosion is another valid answer there. All right, what is the percent chance that the NFL does its next gen stats playoff probability? They have a number for it. What is the percent chance that the Cowboys make the playoffs? For the most part, you actually did get some good results in Week 10, except for maybe the one you needed the most did not happen. So what is the percent chance the Dallas Cowboys make the playoffs? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. The correct answer is low. It's low. Jacobus is 100%. So I love the optimism. 15, 43%, 5%. No one has put in the number that was the NFL's Next Gen Stats. 0 from Joker Smoker, 50, comma, 7. I know it sounds like 57. 10%, 23%, 23%, 0%, 6.9%. I take it back. There are 2 right answers. There are 2 right answers. Brandon Bell and King Trill both have it. NFL's Next Gen Stats have it at a 4% chance that the Dallas Cowboys make the playoffs this year. So not exactly a high probability. A big factor in that is how daunting the schedule is down the stretch. Tommy Buster, a $5 super chat, says, can we still sign Uncle Rico? Who is Uncle Rico in the modern day NFL? And it's not really Davis Mills anymore. I don't know who it is. Who is Uncle Rico in the NFL? Obviously, they're not Ben DiNucci, but he's way more chill. I don't know. It's fun. They ever put Joe Milton in? He'll throw the ball over them their mountains pretty legitimately. All right, Cowboys are back this week, although we have to wait the full week to Monday Night Football. If you are excited that the Dallas Cowboys are set to play this week on Monday Night Football, show it by liking the video, please, and thank you. Coming up on today's show, someone asked, what's the chance for the number 1 pick? Essentially 0. Legitimately, I think you may have won too many games already. I don't know if Tennessee's going to get to 4 wins. I don't think Tennessee's going to get to 4 wins. I think you have already won too many games. So, coming up on today's show, news and rumors around the Dallas Cowboys. More specific stuff there. Bunch of NFL news that impacts the Cowboys I want to break down on today's video. And a mailbag. 2 of them, actually, since it's been a week since we went live. Really, a week and a half since we had a normal live show. There's a lot of super thanks, so we're going to do 2 mailbags for you guys on today's stream. All coming up live here on the Cowboys Report. Coming out of the bye week for the Dallas Cowboys, did they win it? You know, it's always a fun half answer of they win or lost just based on how the vibes are feeling. Did the Cowboys win the bye week? W for they won it, L for they lost. Let me know in the comments section of today's show, and we'll dive into some rumors/news around America's team. First up is on Quandre Diggs. So a different Diggs end up joining the Dallas Cowboys. The Titans cut Diggs before NFL Week 10. Essentially what happened here was he was playing, he was a veteran. The Titans don't need a veteran. They could not find a trade partner at the deadline. They were trying to free up snaps for Kevin Winston Jr., their day 2 draft pick out of Penn State. Diggs is the veteran. Didn't make sense for him to stick around. Yeah, he's back with his cousin, Cam Ward. Essentially, both sides go, yeah, this is not the right time for me to be here anymore. The Cowboys' safety room has not been very good. So could Diggs help? He's got 30 tackles on the season. The 1 pass breakup has been a veteran piece in Tennessee this year. Has not been overly impressive, frankly, but he hasn't been a massive liability. I think he's been the veteran stopgap starter, which, yeah, you're kind of banged up right now in that safety room. Wanye Thomas seems to be finally over his migraine issues. Would not be surprised if Donovan Wilson makes his return this week. Elijah Clark has a real chance to miss this week's game because of his rib injury. Malik Hooker, we'll see if, when, timeline, whatever it is, of him getting back. Marquise Bell has been, frankly, relative to expectations, kind of a disappointment. So the safety room has not been good. There is an argument that Quandre Diggs would benefit you and be one of your top 2 or 3 safeties in that room as we sit right now. Going to get to my thoughts here in just a second. Would you sign Quandre Diggs if you were the Cowboys? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's video. Again, that's Y for yes, N for no. I am not opposed to adding Quandre Diggs, but I do wonder if Dallas thinks safety is a need. I don't know if this team views safety the same way that we do. They seem to have a bit higher expectations of guys like Malik Hooker, like Donovan Wilson. There's no guarantee Malik Hooker ends up coming back. So I do wonder how much interest there would be in Dallas' side. But also, I do wonder how much Quandre Diggs wants to join a 3-5-1 team. Yeah, they're in Texas where he went to school. I do wonder if Diggs wants to go to a team that he might not view as a legitimate contender. He might be able to find a better team that is also in low-key dire need of an additional safety. So I'm not opposed to it. I'm not going to necessarily get my hopes up, though, either. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action is even better on Prize Picks, and the weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks is simple to play. You pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. Get those picks right, you could cash in. It is the only app that offers stacks. Pick the same play up to 3 times in the same lineup. Here's one of our Thursday and Sunday Prize Picks slates. Shout out to my boy, producer Jack Lauderave, cooking it up. Drake May, more than passing yards against kind of still shaky Jets defense. Trevon Diggs, touchdown. Zach Ertz, touchdown against a Dolphins team that hasn't always been the best at coverage, especially covering tight ends. You can also follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app in the new feed tab. Copy their lineups in one simple click. Go download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Links in the comments section and the description of today's show. Let's go to the other Diggs, the original Diggs, Trevon Diggs. Brian brought us on Twitter offering a little bit of insight into the Trevon Diggs situation. Broadus felt that the Cowboys let Al Harris let Trevon Diggs get away with a little bit too much. And he mentioned off the field as part of this conversation. And then the response was like, hey, do you mean like off the field character stuff or like being late to meetings and stuff like that? And Brian said that the poster was on the right path on that front. Now, Jerry Jones has said he doesn't think Diggs is done in Dallas, but I do wonder if it is done. This is just another example, another hint, another layer unpeeled of the frustration, valid or not, the Cowboys have had in the direction of Trevon Diggs. Remember, Calvin Watkinson reported not that long ago that Diggs was, I'll put this delicately, not always going to his rehab like he was supposed to, which definitely upset the Dallas Cowboys. He has not been very good in coverage this year. It's some of the zone man stuff. Nobody's coverage stats look very good, which, could very easily be a coaching problem as well. He was actually trying to support the run a little bit better than some previous seasons. But you paid Diggs to be a ball hawk playmaker. If he gets beat, it's okay because he'll get you an interception that game or the next game. And that has not been the case so far. And I do wonder if he ends up returning to the Cowboys. Depending on how these next couple games go, also might influence that. Like, Cowboys can't get some wins by the time Diggs is healthy. Does it make sense to bring back a guy who's not going to be here for you? Or does it make more sense to play the youth? Guys like Caelen Carson, like Shavon, Revel, who I do think is going to be back this week for the Cowboys as well. So will Trevon Diggs ever play again for the Dallas Cowboys, or is it already done? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Another free agent name mentioned. We got Diggs, free agent, and they're all kind of connected. See, it's kind of funny. Bleacher Report suggested the Cowboys look to sign free agent. They said linebacker / safety, which is fair because Isaiah Simmons is a journeyman without a home in terms of a position or an NFL team. Simmons has bounced around the league. Arizona, I thought he was going to be good. In fact, I thought 2021, he showed some good stuff. And then he kind of like steadily fell out of favor in Arizona. They didn't really know how to utilize him. Goes to the Giants. They can't figure out how to use him. The Packers couldn't do it. Now he's still a free agent. I wonder if anyone's going to give him another chance outside of like practice squad. You're not signing him to your active roster if you're any team, nor I think the Dallas Cowboys. You're going to get DeMarvion Overshown back, who, hey, in a way, the stuff we saw when healthy was what I thought Isaiah Simmons was going to be. They just traded for Logan Wilson. They still have Kenneth Murray, Maurice Leafau, Shamar James, Damone Clark on the roster. If they're going to pitch this idea of, like Bleacher Report did, if he could be a safety or a linebacker, isn't that kind of what Donovan Wilson and Marquise Bell already are for you? And you've already paid both of those players. Everyone likes the name Isaiah Simmons. I take accountability. I completely missed on that draft pick. I thought he was going to be way better than he was. It's been a disaster relative to expectations, but I don't know if he really makes a lot of sense right now for the Cowboys. And we'll have more free Cowboys YouTube videos for you, so hit that sub button if you haven't already. YouTube.com/Cowboys TV. Free videos right here for you on the channel. Adam Schefter pulled back the curtain on Sunday with a rather unique, not unprecedented, but unique poison pill, quote unquote, the Cowboys put into the Micah Parsons trade. Essentially, if the Packers trade Micah, which is highly unlikely, to an NFC East team before 2027, Dallas gets Green Bay's first-round pick. So, they could do it, but it jacks up the price because the Packers are going to lose their own first-round pick there. Kenny Clark, by the way, also has this condition on the trade, which means the Cowboys essentially cannot trade their 2028 first-round pick until 2027, and they can't trade the 2027 first-round pick until 2026 after that year ends because of the conditions they put on the Quinnen Williams trade. This had previously gone unreported. Schefter kind of made some good notes of NFL teams noticed there were some conditions on the pick, but it was not labeled why. He was able to dig in and figure out what it was, writing, league sources said these poison pill conditions were clearly put into place to block Parsons from winding up from Philadelphia. In the unlikely event that Green Bay decided to part ways with Parsons into Philadelphia, there would have to be enough compensation involved to make up for the Packers' loss of their 2028 first-round pick. Nobody expects that to happen, but one source spelled out how it could. So the Eagles could have to surrender significant draft capital in that highly unlikely scenario. Look, there's no real plan, or I'd say chance either, of the Packers and Eagles doing this. Maybe if everything goes belly up in Green Bay next year, then they could reconsider. But the way the contract is structured and what they're going to do with it, they're probably not going to. I find it more interesting that the Cowboys kind of went out of their way to put this in place. Green Bay did it once too. They put that clause in with the Brett Favre Jets trade because they didn't want him to go to Minnesota. Then he got cut, and it all ended up playing out that way. So it's not going to happen, but it is noteworthy to me. All right, mailbag time coming up here on the show. We'll get to Matt Temple's super chat here in just a second before the mailbag, since the mailbag will go out before or after Monday Night Football, and it's about Monday Night Football. So use hashtag Cowboys, skip the line altogether to get in on the show. Whether it's any thoughts, questions, etc., get your questions in via hashtag Cowboys. Skip the line altogether via Super Chat. I will say there's a lot of super thanks. So Super Chat's the main way you're going to be able to get on today's mailbag. Again, hashtag Cowboys. Skip the line altogether via Super Chat as well. Matt Temple's $10 Super Chat says, I'm going to cheer for the tie because I think it'd be hysterical. And to have two primetime games end in a tie, both involving Green Bay, by the way, would be the only way the NFL will get rid of ties. I do hate this because I do all of our playoff picture stuff here at Chat Sports. We're going to start that on Tuesday, by the way, on the Chat Sports channel. So stay tuned for that. The ties just complicate. It's really frustrating of things just they don't operate. It makes it more complicated for me than it needs to be. And there was almost because I also there's also if they tie scenarios when you get to week 16 and week 17 that I never do it because I think it's dumb and it's so unlikely. I did have to do it in that Raiders-Chargers game, and then it almost happened. I was it's not going to happen, but this is because it's the primetime game, I'll mention it. And then it almost happened, and I was annoyed by that one. So this is the Super Chat menu on today's show. By the way, any super is a shout out. $5 gets you into our to-be-determined Monday Night Football raffle. $10 gets you 3 raffle entries. $50 is a shot, and $100 is the beer bong. Last call for your hashtag Cowboys or Super Chat questions for today's mailbag. Of note, there are a lot of super thanks we'll get to on today's show. So, yeah, because we don't have it. Yep, you're good to go. Getting into today's mailbag, William Cook leading things off with a $5 super thanks. I wonder who got through the Jones boys. They need to spend draft capital. I didn't expect them to be this active. Glad they made the trades. By the way, of note here, real quick, a lot of these questions coming in around our trade deadline coverage. We didn't have a live show on Thursday, so we're getting caught up on some of these. They made trades, and it's very unlike the Cowboys to pursue that path, but it was kind of nice to see it happen. If you guys want in to our weekly $5 our weekly raffles, a $5 super thanks will get you in. That's a $5 super thanks or super chat. Jonathan Kelly, a $20 super chat. There are several questions as well on Marshawn Kneeland. This is what a horrible tragedy, Tom. I know that was a hard report, the passing of Kneeland. It was hard for me as well. And then seeing you struggle to get through that video was equally as hard. At the end of the day, we all just have to realize it's football and comes nowhere close to what really matters in life. Hold your loved ones close every day. Cherish every minute of every day. You never know when your time is up for you or them. I'm going to post this message to everyone. Just keep doing what you do, brother, and God bless. I actually am going to post all the messages. I know we don't need to, but I do think that these types of heartfelt messages are valuable and important, and I appreciate that, John. So thank you, or Jonathan. Thank you very much on that front there. So thank you. All right, next up on the super thanks side, this was the $100 one that came in from CJ, which we did post in the second Marshawn Kneeland update video, who just says, you never know how friends and loved ones are doing. Check in. Let them know that they are loved no matter what. You're a great human, Tom. Not necessarily on the last part there, CJ, but I do appreciate that as well. Thank you guys very much. From Freddie, a $5 says, this defense needs more than one or two players, and we're delusional if we think otherwise. Save the draft picks, save the cap space, extend Pickens, restructure Dak and CD, make a splash in free agency, have a defense-heavy draft. 2026 looks promising. This came in before the Quinn Williams trade, but I think the message is right, and it is why the Cowboys focused on adding a not just 2025 player. There's even an argument like the free agency options aren't going to be great, so if you can kind of spend your way to getting a better player in free agency via a trade, it actually does make some sense. Another one from CJ DeYoung here. Our secondary's crap, we can't stop the run. Still, or again, how does this help the team? And more importantly, the fans, other than new merch for Jones just to cash in on, run out and buy a new jersey, sheeple. Help fund Jerry's new fracking venture. He's still doing the oil stuff. I think in general, getting back in attention was probably a factor. I do think if your front is better, that will make life easier on your secondary. You do still have to go get more help, though. You do still have to get secondary help, and that's really going to be an off-season thing. Richard Robinson, I like picking up Wilson and Williams. This was, again, back on the trade deadline. With Agent Zero coming back, too, what is a realistic expectation for the defense after the bye? How do you carve up snaps between Clark, Williams, and Osa? It's a good question, and I think in general, I think you have to still temper expectations. That's a guy that hasn't ever played football in Shavon Revel, a guy that hasn't played football in about a year in DeMarvion Overshown. Can you just be like top 20 and like build some promise into next year where it does look more promising, as many of you have already said? We'll see. Grade the Cowboys defense moving forward right now. A, B, C, D, or F? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. It's the pinned comment on today's video. Mighty Ant says, why didn't they go after Sauce Gardner? WTH. I think the big factor is the cost. 2 first-round picks for a guy that you're paying most of the contract to is pretty expensive. Not that you're not paying all of the Quinn in one yet. There's Jets still ate quite a bit of that money there. But 2 ones for a position that is a bit more streaky, as you've seen this year with DaRon Bland, is a little bit rich for the way the Cowboys are constructed. If it had been a 1 and a 2, I bet they would have had more interest there, but the Colts, I think, pretty clearly blew them away. Nate S., this came in before the trade for Quinn Williams, by the way, says they traded for Cooper that 1-year turnaround. It's possible, I'm coping. Eagles could lose a few in a row, though, too. If you're going to make a playoff push, you're going to need quite a bit of help. William, will Trevon Diggs play another game for the Dallas Cowboys? I would be a little bit surprised. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but I do think that there is a real chance that race is over, that he's just not going to play again for the Dallas Cowboys, and the frustration between those two sides just kind of goes its separate ways, and that's the end of the line for Diggs in Dallas. So what do you think ends up happening? Will Trevon Diggs play again for the Dallas Cowboys? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Daniel M. says, Tom, I'm really curious on how the Cowboys are going to get all these guys back from IR, inserting the 2 new players we got. I think someone is going to get cut or being put on IR for stashing. So, of note here, We did break down some additional cut candidates on our Monday morning video. That is out there. They did free up the room for Logan Wilson and for just Logan Wilson. They swapped out Mozzie for the Quinnen trade. Malik Davis got cut on that front. I think as it relates to those other guys, you're right. Something has to give when the guys come back from IR. You've got one spot open already. IR stash or a cut or two is going to have to happen, or additional injuries end up happening as well, which hopefully doesn't happen. Knock on wood. From CGW, possible Gilmore reunion after the season. I am of this mindset for Stephon Gilmore. If it doesn't happen this year, and at this point seems like it's not going to happen, I don't think it happens next year. Because then he's 36 years old and hasn't played a down of football in over a year. So I'm kind of thinking at this point, unless a vet team brings him in last second, we'll see on that front. It's not going to happen. And if Dallas did want him at 35, I don't know why they're going to want him at 36. They're kind of taking the Leo DiCaprio approach there, right? It is the holiday season. If you're looking for a gift for a loved one or something to add to your Christmas wish list, how about a Cowboys hoodie? Not quite the one that I have that I wear sometimes on the show, but it's about as close as I've come across. There's a lot of these styles, different designs and looks. Up to 40% off for a limited time. Go to chatsports.com/Cowboys hoodies. That link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. That's chatsports.com/Cowboys hoodies. Not quite the one I rock sometimes on the air, but it is about as similar as it gets. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. From the Basement Boys, is it tampering to the Giants if the Giants reach out to Matt Eberflus? Right now, yes. They're not going to. But right now, it would be tampering. That stuff does not get done until after the season ends. There's a very specific timeline and spacing with when that one is able to occur. So don't read too much. I know there was a fake report on it, which was pretty funny. But it would be tampering, but they're not going to do it right now. We got a long super thanks from CJ Baxter Burner, which I assume is the old Jaden Blue burner. So I know you summarized. Please read most of this, and I'll condense it down for the video so it's not 3 minutes of me reading off a super thanks and everyone tunes out. I'll link it in the comments, though, as well. It says, if you're a fan, your first reaction is to blame Dak. You do not watch football. Go look at all the Super Bowl champions. Most, a lot of a top 10 defense, top 5, a lot of metrics. Peyton Manning won that one with 11 to 18 TD interception ratio. Can Dak play better? Yes, but he's not even in your top 10 biggest issues this year. I agree. It says play calling has been spotty. Shoddy gets too cute. Doesn't use Lamb or Pickens early. You're telling me that slant hitch out combo of routes Pickens isn't great, was open until the fourth? Doubtful. Also, the red zone play calling is super questionable, which I agree with. Penalties, especially in the red zone and pre-snap, are killing them. The metric of a bad team is this: bad run defense, penalties, bad red zone offense, situational penalties, terrible on third down defensively. Cowboys have been that all year long. Jerry built the team, get what he paid for. You cheap for a garbage product, you can't stomach paying for high quality? Sure, it'll last for a bit, but they needed another one soon. Could have paid more up front and gotten better longevity. Jerry traded cheap for Murray and Elam, signed Fowler and Thomas, re-signed Wilson, Hooker, Bell. You get what you pay for. Mediocre play. So we want John the Gannon. In fact, his defense was tackling, battling ball, stripping the football, shows good coaching to me. When's the last time the Cowboys successfully had any games where they stripped more than one football? Doesn't happen often. That's why I say this is equally a personal issue as it is a coaching issue. Things like that separate teams. But the sacks and the D-line played that well. People now convince themselves that offense is the problem because our defense, at the bare minimum, holding a backup QB and multiple third-string backs, 27 points. And by the way, they scored on every drive except the block punt when they weren't trying in the fourth quarter. Can we stick to the run early, especially in the red zone? You passed it on the first, then second, ran on second from the 5. Now they're late in the game, down multiple scores. Should have had a running back first, then passed it, then ran. Drops, fumbles. Ferguson dropped 2, but that was a good read from Dak. Ferguson catch it, change the sequence of the plays. Throw was high, but he's tight end for the reason. They make the big bucks make play like that. That's what the money is for, right? I understand Shotty's desire to go for it. Could have taken 3 one of those drives, but that last week when the defense was worse, he just punts. He's inconsistent. Sorry for being all over the place, but this is just bad. We'll have that entire super thanks in the comments of today's video. You don't have to go as long on some of them. It makes it kind of crazy. But we will have free videos for you. If you go long, we'll throw it in there on that front. It's a very, very long super thanks. So a lot of that was, I think, was spot on. So hit the sub button for mailbags, live shows, watch parties, and more. YouTube.com/Cowboys TV. Steve-O, a $10 super chat. Let me get those entries in. Thank you, Steve-O. Hey, I think the Cowboys can win 3 straight. What are the odds they finish 6-2 to end the season? Which games look most winnable? If they beat Philly, does that flip the NFC East? I think realistically, to make the playoffs right now, you have to win your next 2 games. Because even if you win those next 2 games, you beat the Raiders, you beat Philadelphia, you then have the Chiefs on Thanksgiving, the Lions on the road, the Vikings and Chargers at home, and then you wrap up with the Commanders and Giants. Now, maybe those 3 of those last 4 games aren't as tough as we thought they might be at the beginning of the year, but that gauntlet of Philly, KC, Lions on Sunday, Thursday, it's like 3 games in 13 days or something, is brutal for the Dallas Cowboys. No, not even 13 games. It's like 12 games or something. I don't know. Either way, predict the Cowboys' record for me this year. Let me know in the comments section of today's show what you think the Cowboys' record will be this year. Brady Ballers, a $5 super chat. Let me get you in there, Brady. Thank you, my friend. 2 things. 1, can both teams somehow lose in Monday Night Football? Let's see. Odds the Cowboys actually pick up Quandre Diggs. Let's see. My expectations are low on that front. I think that maybe if you're Diggs, maybe you want to go to a team that's a bit better right now. I don't know if he wants to ride it out with the 3-5-1 team necessarily. The Basement Boys, #94 Neyland. Would you use the group pick to get more picks in the second, maybe the 3rd round in the draft? It's very, very possible. I want to see what the offers look like, what the board looks like, but that trading down in the back end of round 1 to get, a second and a 3rd round pick does make a lot of sense to me, depending on what the offers are. Hell, if you can get that Rams offer, that James Pierce 2.0 trade, I would be very much on board with that as well. All right, what is the % chance the Cowboys make the playoffs? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Let me know what the % chance you think the Cowboys make the playoffs are. Daniel's asking, is it unrealistic to go 8-0? I think technically, I'm saying there's a chance, GIF, but not really. I don't think you're gonna be able to go 8-0 with how parity driven the league has been this year. That just seems highly unlikely. Just doesn't really seem like a path that is going to realistically happen for the Cowboys. As fun as it would be, maybe you come up short, but I still I'd like to try to win some games and see just how much you can build on for next year. Get to William Cook's $10 super chat here in just a second. It's doing the disappear thing on Aiden again, which is always kind of funny because he gets to it and then it goes away. At least the Cowboys on dumps for like the Giants. Makes it more frustrating because we know the Cowboys have more potential. We're going to get to the Giants, by the way, actually, in just a second. A couple notable NFL news items for the Giants, but also for the Raiders that I think are pretty noteworthy on that front. Before we get to it, one more time, the super chat menu on today's show. Any super chat is a shout out. $5 is a raffle entry. $10 gets you 3 raffle entries. $50 is a shot. And $100 is the beer bong. That's the super chat menu as we get into the next segment of today's show. Several notable NFL news items that do impact the Cowboys I want to get into on today's show. First up, Brian Daboll out as the Giants head coach. He has been fired. We'll break that down. Several Raiders key injury news updates that we will get to as well, since the Cowboys play the Raiders on Monday Night Football. And Week 10 results that matter and impact the Cowboys before Monday Night Football between the Eagles and the Packers. Now, our goal on today's video is to beat the November channel likes record so far this month. That is 2,400. I think we can crush it on today's video. Help us out by liking the video, please, and thank you if you haven't already done so. The big NFL news of the day, Brian Daboll is out as the Giants head coach after not one, not two, not three, but 4 straight double-digit leads that the Giants have blown. Ownership firing Daboll on Monday. Mike Kafka is the interim head coach. Cowboys and Giants don't play again until the very end of the season. Marshall Green, who has been in shambles for a reason we'll get to here in a second, had this stat on the Joe Schoen Brian Daboll combination: 2-8 this year, 3-19 in their last 22 games, 5-22 in the last 27 games, 5-17-1 in the NFC East. Brian Daboll actually never has beaten the Dallas Cowboys. He's lost all 7 of his previous matchups. They have been unable to win a game over Dallas, as close as they came in the overtime loss. And even when they didn't have Dak Prescott, still weren't able to gut out wins. Giants always finding a way to come up short under Brian Daboll against the Dallas Cowboys. Look, the Giants firing Brian Daboll was obviously needed, but in good news for Cowboys fans / NFC East fans everywhere, it makes their offseason look worse. They did the mistake of drafting the quarterback to pair with the head coach. Now they fired the head coach, and now they're keeping the GM. That was the report out of New York. The Giants announcing Joe Schoen would stay as the GM. This is the exact move that bad franchises make. This is a good thing for the Cowboys and the entire NFC East. Keeping the GM who was on the hot seat and not the head coach is not what smart teams do. You want to have cohesion in the organization. You're not getting that now in New York, because now the GM has to make Jackson Dart work. The head coach might not be on the same timeline as the GM is. So if the team struggles again, they're just going to fire the GM, but they just hired the head coach. So they're going to keep the head coach. And if the quarterback doesn't get going and have success, they're going to fire the quarterback. Now the head coach fighting for a job, and it's just, you're never on the same timeline, and it's bad. Which means it's great news for the Cowboys and the entire NFC East as a whole. So, on behalf of Eagles and Commanders fans everywhere, thank you, Giants, for finding ways to do the stupid thing. And this is why Marshall Green is in shambles on our Giants channel. So, beyond this year, be honest with me, how much do the Giants worry you? 1 to 10 is your scale. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. I think the one thing that gives you some confidence if you're a Giants fan has been the play of Jackson. I think he's gotten, for the most part, better each week. My biggest concern, as part of the CTE crew with Cam Scadaboo, they were reckless with how they were deploying him and just letting him take so many hits and not having him do enough like real, pure drop back passing stuff. Not going to play this week, I assume, because of a concussion. It's the 4th time this year he's been evaluated for a concussion. At first, they were fine, but that's 4 now. That's a lot of hits he does not need to be tanking. I know some of you have been like, well, they might hire Clayton Adams. I doubt it, actually. I'm not too worried about losing Clayton Adams to the New York Giants. And it's history that tells me that. In general, non-play calling offensive coordinators don't get a lot of buzz, especially when it's their first year as a non-play calling offensive coordinator, and especially if they're not quarterback focused. Sometimes the non-play calling OC with a quarterback coaching background gets a shot, i.e. Brian Callahan, but outside of like Bill, there's not very many he called some plays, non-play calling OCs that get the job unless they're working with QB. So I would not be overly concerned about losing Clayton Adams. Let's go to the Raiders since they play on Monday Night Football. They are banged up on the offensive line. Geno Smith also working through that quad contusion. Sounds like he'll play. At this point, history tells us to expect Geno's best game of the year. Kind of like the last time he had a good game against the Cowboys, the Seahawks match. Remember that when he was dealing, the Cowboys just were better on offense. Geno has been bad this year. I even think last year, 2024, he had a bunch of interceptions, but there were like drops and miscommunications. It wasn't Geno's fault. This year, he just doesn't look good. They're going to feed Tyler Lockett a decent amount in this game because it's the Pete Carroll's old buddies have all reunited in Las Vegas for like a retirement home tour. Geno has been a huge issue. Bigger issue is the offensive line. More on that in a second. But first, Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. Keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. You can follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app, copy their lineups in one, whether it's a friend, celebrity partner, or someone who's Pixelite. Hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. A little Monday Night Football Prize Picks action. Devonta Smith more than receiving yards. Josh Jacobs more than a half touchdown, so 1 touchdown. Saquon less than rushing yards. Prize Picks is the only app to offer stacks. So if you want to pick Jalen Hurts, for example, more than passing, rushing yards, and touchdowns, you can do it only on the Prize Picks app. Go download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Links in the comment section and the description of today's show. Let's go to the Raiders' offensive line, and they are extremely banged up. Colton Miller is already on injured reserve. Sounds like Jackson Powers-Johnson is going to end up going to IR, potentially ending his season. Dylan Parham is battling a high ankle sprain. He might not be able to play either. So Mitchell Renz, our Raiders Report host, cooked up his proposed offensive line against the Cowboys. And honestly, if you know more than 2 people on this list, touch grass. I'm kidding. I know them, but this is not a good offensive line. This is a horrifically bad unit, and it's really shown up. In particular, the run blocking has been just horrible for the Las Vegas Raiders. DJ Glaze has not been good. They've tried Alex Kappa at times as well. Jordan Meredith has been Meredith and Glaze and Stone Forsythe are average at best offensive linemen. Caleb Rogers hasn't, draft pick out of Texas Tech, you guys might know him from locality, hasn't played it on offense. Charles Grant has had a snap. So that's an entirely new left side of the offensive line. The Raiders O-line, whatever 5 they toss out there, is a mess. The Cowboys should be able to generate plenty of pressure. And there have been games this year where different parts of the Cowboys pass rush is good. The Jets game, for example, there were several players who were good in that game. Couple players against the Arizona Cardinals as well. The consistency of the Cowboys offense or defensive line has not been particularly good. It's been James just has 3 pressures in his last 4 games. He has not been the level of impact player I think the Cowboys are hoping for. I think we'll see plenty of 5-man fronts coming out for the Dallas Cowboys. I think you'll see a lot of Osa and Clark and Quinnich have a big game, but you should be able to get pressure in this one. We'll go more in depth on that as part of our previews later this week. So give me your score prediction between the Cowboys and the Raiders. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Finally, not going to do full-on playoff picture. I refuse to do it until at least another week. They aren't technically out of the playoff hunt yet, but the Cowboys are the number 11 seed right now. They've lost to several fringe playoff teams. They need a bunch of help. And per Next Gen Stats, 4% playoff probability right now. Some key Cowboys losses. Obviously, Philadelphia stands at the top, given they're the number 2 seed going into Monday Night Football, and they play in the same division. Bears, Panthers, and maybe Arizona hurt you a lot for wild card hopes. That Bears one, that stings since Chicago might end up being the 7th team in the postseason. Look, the Cowboys, I do think in general, though, got some help with the Week 10 results. And if you want to keep those playoff hopes alive, I do think you have to cheer for the Green Bay Packers in Week 10, even though that kind of hurts your draft pick slightly. I think the best path to the playoffs is going to be the NFCs because you have a little bit more control over that. You've already lost to the Bears. You need a bunch of help from them, other teams. You can at least give yourself some help by taking down the Eagles in a week and a half if you win this game against the Raiders first. A Packers loss does help your draft pick positioning, so it's not the end of the world if they lose. It's kind of a bit of a lose-lose /win-win no matter what. But who are you cheering for in this one? E for the Eagles, P for the Packers. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Then we'll run through some notable results that did help you in Week 10. So rapid fire here on some of these. The Week 10 results that benefited you from a playoff perspective if you want to keep those ever so slim hopes alive here. The Colts beating the Falcons in overtime in London. The Falcons have been a very weird team. They're still like on the fringes of being in the playoff picture mix. They're the 13th seed now with that loss. They would have been ahead of you had they won. Ravens and Vikings. The Vikings lose. They're 4-5. There's wild card implications there down the line. You do play the Vikings later in the year, so that's good. This one not as impactful because I'm pretty sure Tampa is just going to run away with the division. But I do think that the Bucs loss, if something weird happens and they fall apart, that's one less win for them. Saints and Panthers did matter a lot. Panthers could have been 6-4 right there in the heat of the playoff picture race. Instead, they do drop that game. And I mean, honestly, outside of the top 8 teams, no one's got better than like 17 or 18% chance in the postseason. That was a huge loss and a bad one for Carolina. Now, we'll have more videos for you all season and into the offseason and beyond here on the Cowboys Report. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/Cowboys TV for more free Cowboys YouTube videos. Arizona also helped you out a little bit. Again, this is all based on making the playoffs. Otherwise, you want the draft pick, these all hurt you. It's the inverse, right? But for now, I guess we'll hope for playoffs. Cardinals losing was ugly. Also, you felt bad because, oh, look, another team that beat the Cowboys and their offense was doo-doo afterwards. The Niners, if you want that wild card race, that was kind of a bad performance by them. They're so banged up and so injured. It's a huge concern there. The Commanders at this point, they also, by the way, news of note, Joe Witt, no longer the play caller on defense. Dan Quinn taking over there. That was a good one for the Cowboys. They fall to 3-7. You could almost argue Detroit would have been a better team, but I don't think Detroit would have completely fallen out of the race. So you almost want them to be further ahead. The Bears beat the Giants was not helpful. If they would have lost and dropped themselves to 5-4, that would have been beneficial to you. But then they would have not fired Brian Daboll today. So, which I guess they're going to keep Joe Shane no matter what. I don't know. It's kind of humorous the way that this year has gone on for the Giants and how it, again, has fallen apart. Super Chat menu today is as follows. Any Super Chat is a shout out. A $5 raffle entry gets you into $5 gets you into our raffle entry. $10 gets you 3. $50 is a shot. $100 is a beer bong as well. So get all your Super Chats in here for our upcoming final mailbag of the day. We only got to about half of the super thanks that have come in the past, almost 2 weeks? Week and a half, I guess. So several more super thanks we'll get to on today's show. Get your questions in via hashtag Cowboys. Skip the line altogether via Super Chat. Steve-O, your mailbag will be, or your super thanks will be included in the mailbag. CJ DeYoung, we'll get to that as well. So get your questions in via hashtag Cowboys. Skip the line altogether via Super Chat. A $5 super thanks to get us going from CJ DeYoung III. What does that late first-round pick Green Bay get us on day 2? Thanks. It depends on what the offers are, how far down you want to go, but in general, the rough trade value is an early second and an early third. Not like 33, but more like 35, 36. Somewhere in that rough ballpark will put you in the conversation. So if you wanted to, you could trade down and simply recoup your second and third round pick that you lost. That is possible with that Packers pick, but depends on who's there, and we'll do plenty of mock drafts with trades, I promise you. If you want in to our weekly raffles, send in a $5 super thanks. If you can't watch live, you can get in on or via the super thanks feature. Like CT did. He just said thanks. Appreciate that. He's also CT99, which I assume is a Clone Wars reference, which if so, pretty fun. Richard Robinson, $5, says, Jerry said that changing DCs 3 years in a row was a mistake. I agree with that. But does that mean we're stuck with Eberflus for a while? A very similar super thanks came in, by the way, from whoever our next one is. From Marcus Arnold says, sorry, we cannot fire Matt Eberflus. The defenses will never get better with a revolving door at DC. 4 in 4 years will be disastrous. Right now we have 3 players set to fit 3 different systems. Adding players to fit a 4th is not the answer. So I get all of that. And my counter here is, if it's not going to work with Eberflus, then you cannot keep him. Like, if you have decided this is not going to work, you can't keep them just for the sake of continuity. If the continuity is bad play, then you cannot keep it. You have to make a change. That would kind of be the sunk cost fallacy of, well, you know what? We can't do it for the 4th time in a row. You actually have to. Because 4 in 4 years is bad. You know what's also bad? 4 in 5 years, when you intentionally kept the 4th year, even though you knew it was bad because reasons. You didn't want to make another change. That would be a very bad process. Now, he's got half a season. Let's see how it plays out. I will give him some credit. He's done more to try to adjust his defense. He has made more changes and tried to be more, aware of adjustments than I think some DCs are, but there's still a lot of room to grow on that front. So I get you are right. You don't want 4 DCs in 4 years, but if you got the hire wrong, you have to move on and not just ride it out because you don't want another change. So be honest with me. Do you want to keep Matt Eberflus? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Now, CJ, most of these coming in before the Quinnen trade, was unhappy with Cowboys ownership. Again, says the 2 other deals pertain to natural gas and Bitcoin. F you, Uriah, you jerk. Says deserved. And this is about Jerry. For most GMs, this would have been a wake-up call. Michigan franchise, they'll just buy more fracking rigs. F off, Jerry. Thanks. This team is a dumpster fire. It's been a dumpster fire for years and will continue to be a dumpster fire until the Jones family no longer owns it. They care more about glory holes than fans that made them their first billions. Piss off, Steven. F off, Charlotte. Y'all suck and have ruined America's team. Thanks. Also said, again, he was unhappy. This was after the Cardinals game, and I get it. He was right. This team is a joke, Tom. I've been saying it for before the year started. Jariah is more concerned about his gas oil deals than his football franchise that afford him to do all these other deals. He said it out loud. He'd rather be playing oil tycoon than fixing the Cowboys defense. What more do we need? Stop buying Cowboys gear. Stop an organization that's obviously doesn't care about winning, its fan base winning or championships. I get it. And if you are ever upset with the Jones boys, you can always type in FJB. And also, a lot of these came in like after a loss, which is, hey, you get 24 hours to vent however you need to vent. Trust me on that front. Eli Aaron, also mad at Jerry Jones. What if I told you Jerry makes more money not being aggressive and spending money and not making a pass change game and doing nothing in free agency when he won the 2 Super Bowls? That is true, by the way. Jerry's made comments that he was surprised that it took him longer to kind of break even after the Super Bowl win. But it's also a different era now. How does this? He does it on purpose. He gets more attention because he won those Super Bowls. He gets to sit back and do nothing. He doesn't want a Super Bowl. He wants attention. Jerry Jones is smart for this. There's nothing we can do till the day he dies. It's literally a rage-baiting scheme so he gets people like Stephen A. talking about him and the comments he makes on podcasts. Why do we expect him to change? We're never going to win Super Bowls as long as he's at the throne. We're supposed to get the phone call and be served. That's not managing. It's being comfortable with where you're at, thinking you made everything happen in the 90s. We want him to be urgent when he's everything he needs. He doesn't care for fans. He only cares about himself. The frustration in general, I get. It is completely valid. There is a lot of truth into they have their budget. Jerry's biggest lie is that he'd spend any amount of money on a Super Bowl. I don't think that's true. He'd spend a reasonable amount and he spends it the way on the stuff he wants to spend it on. Joseph, if Pickens leaves or stays, how about Isaiah Satenga out of Oklahoma? Different type of receiver. I think he's a junior. He doesn't have to go pro. I think he's a redshirt junior. Has their eligibility. I feel like he's very different than Pickens. Like, I'd want a bigger body outside guy. That's not Isaiah's game. Fun player, though. Very fun college player, part of an OU offense that's been a little inconsistent since Mateer came back. CJ did like they all gathered in a retirement home comment about Pete Carroll, which, I might send that one to Mitch and tell him to use. So, Steve-O says, you win 3 straight games and the conversation changes. We'll see. Your next 3 games, Raiders, very winnable. But then you've also got the Chiefs and Eagles. And if you win those games, yes, we are all back in it. Not Eagles, Chiefs in that order. that's not going to be a very easy one to win. So do keep an eye on that one. Many of you have asked where I wear the Cowboys hoodie that I sometimes wear on air. This isn't the same one. It's about as close as I've found since the model I have they no longer make. 40% off on these Cowboys hoodies and more when you go to chatsports.com/Cowboys hoodies. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. That's chatsports.com/Cowboys hoodies. Link in the comments section and the description of today's show. Lots of hoodies, sweatshirts, quarter zips, you name it, currently on sale. From CJ, just says FJB. I always appreciate that, CJ. Thank you very much, my friend. Cheers to you. The frustration will never, ever stop here. William Cook says maybe Jerry does more to help this team justify the Micah trade. He has to prove he made the right decision. The Cowboys are not catching the Eagles, so go Packers for a draft pick. Reasonable, in terms of the Monday Night Football fallout there on Monday's show before the game. I do think that there is a very strong argument that part of this is about the fact that Jerry wants to be right. That's what he wants at his core. He wants to be right and for everyone to know he was right. Because he went different on the Schottenheimer hire. He went different on the Micah trade. It'd be nice if they finally did actually pursue a window to win a championship, what they haven't really done in the Dak or Romo eras. They haven't really pushed the same way other franchises have. Will they do it? We'll see. For more of the best Dallas Cowboys content on YouTube, hit that sub button if you haven't already. YouTube.com/Cowboys TV. Multiple videos each and every single day. That one, unfortunate timing there for producer Aiden, so we'll just flip it out in post. Literally, as you're pushing it, it went away. Tommy was having fun saying, can we still sign Uncle Rico? We'll get that one trimmed out in post. Brendan, would you draft a running back in the first round? If it's Jeremiah Love, probably. He would, depending on where I'm drafting, assuming it's 12 or something, he'll probably be the best player on board. It's kind of like the Bijan Robinson conversation all over again. If he's there, the Genti, he's your best player, you probably just do it. You've also seen the issues in Las Vegas of they have not done a very good job. Even with Genti, they've had issues there. I do think defense in general, if it's Love or Caleb Downs, I'm taking Caleb Downs. I don't think Love's going to be there probably. I'm not going to reach for anybody else. I might just pay Javonte a little bit, not to worry about it anyway. But I do think defense should be your focal point unless there's a surprise slide. The Basement Boys, 16% chance for the Cowboys if we win the next two. That gives you a chance. You have to win. I will play my must-win card against the Raiders, though. I will play it this week because I didn't tend to use it last week, so I'm using it now. MC, why is the Texas Tech linebacker Jacob Rodriguez not getting as much hype when he has such high production? I think it's a couple reasons. The biggest of which is I do wonder how he's going to do in the height, weight, speed profile stuff. I don't think he's a burner. He's listed at 6'1", 230. He might be more like 6 foot 225, which is small and light for a linebacker. But he is very productive. I don't know if he is the fastest player of all time, but he is always consistently around the football. If you can get him with a day 2 or somehow a day 3 pick, I am all for that. That guy's just a good football player. Crimson Cowboy, I like the direction of the defense for the first time, it feels like in a long time. Higher rate of odd fronts. That's, by the way, if you don't know, that's essentially 3-4 looks, which could be 3 down linemen and 2 edges, or 3 DEs and 2 DTs. The Cowboys have done both of those there. Higher rate of odd front looks should help disguise pressure better. Need more match. This is match coverage is kind of, go follow Cody Alexander for some good insight there. I like match coverage. If you have high football IQ players, it allows you the best of both worlds with what you're able to show and then deploy afterwards. I like it a lot. Match quarters has been very popular these days, which is kind of play man, but also kind of not play man. It's fun. I like that idea. We'll see what other deployments we get out of Eberflus post-bye week. Will the Cowboys sign any free agents, just in general? There are some players who are out there. Will they go add somebody? A for yes, B for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. A for yes, B for no. Will the Cowboys go sign any free agents this offseason or this season? Richard Robinson, since we haven't had much success drafting in the second, Does it make sense to trade down with the Packers pick? Depends on what you get. If there's an obvious player you want, just sit and pick them. It's fine. I think in general, though, I want more cracks at it. You also haven't drafted that great the back end of round 1 either, of late. Think you got one right on Ezeraku. We'll see about Guyton. I think it's too early to declare that one way or the other. You can write off Mozzie. He ain't going to write back. But that second round pick history has been problematic. Might do a full video on some of your misses. There's different reasons for several of them, but you can't get scared at some point. I joke about just don't draft in the second round, but if you get a good trade value to move back, you should consider it because it gets you 2 extra picks. Or you can always just trade down again in round 2. All right? You can always trade down again. Who are you cheering for on Monday Night Football? E for the Eagles, P for the Packers. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. This is the Monday Night Football lineup. It's a good one, even though there's no YouTube TV, which I cannot stand. I also think there is an inordinate amount of sports fans who are subbed to YouTube TV because we all want our quad box. We are addicted to multi-view. E for the Eagles, P for the Packers. The Meteor is the right answer, but you have to pick one of them, one way or the other. So get your votes in. E for the Eagles, P for the Packers. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Appreciate everyone who tuned in for today's live show. We will be live again on Thursday. And then we'll be live again on Monday Night Football. Probably going to do a Tuesday live show for you guys as well with the fallout of either a win or we're going to be all melting down with a Tuesday loss. So hit that sub button if you haven't already done so. YouTube.com/Cowboys TV. We went CJ DeYoung's at the buzzer. $5 super chat into our raffle, which based on the results so far, we're going to do the head-to-head battle next week. We're already at a bunch of interest from the trade deadline and more. Already got a lot of them in there. CJ also got into the helmet, by the way, which I do need to get the November MVPs in from our lives. So, CJ wants Ty. Everyone wants Ty. And that is the correct answer, frankly. But I refuse to do it because that's the cop-out answer. Neither team wins. That is the right answer, but you have to pick one of them to win. That's what makes it fun. Hit that sub button, folks, if you haven't already done so. YouTube.com/Cowboys TV. See you live on Thursday videos throughout the week as well.